In old age, when no one's left by your side, here's what to do. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today I invite you to listen to a deeply moving story, one that speaks to the quiet courage it takes to keep living fully, even when life feels empty. This is the story of Josie Smith, a 62-year-old man who found himself facing the later chapters of life with no one beside him. From the heartbreak of losing his beloved wife, Beatrice, to the emotional distance that grew between him and his adult children, James and Rosaline, Josie's journey is one of quiet strength, transformation, and learning how to rediscover meaning, one moment at a time. My name is Josie Smith, and this year, I turned 62, he begins. I spent most of my adult life working at a public service agency here in the United States. I was proud of the work I did, and for decades it gave me structure and purpose. But when our department went through restructuring, I was offered early retirement. It came sooner than I expected. I wasn't exactly struggling financially. I had always lived within my means. But emotionally, I was caught off guard. In those early days of retirement, Josie tried to convince himself that everything was fine. The house he once shared with his family still stood. The familiar furniture, the old photos, the creaky floorboards, all remained. But the life that had once filled it, that was gone. Years ago, the home had been alive with laughter and love. His wife, Beatrice, had a laugh that could light up the whole living room. Their children, James and Rosaline, were always running in and out. School, sports, music, life. But as time passed, things changed. Both kids grew up, married, and moved away. James now lived 2 hours north with his wife, and Rosaline had settled in another state entirely. Then came the hardest chapter, Beatrice's passing. After a long illness, she slipped away, leaving Josie with a silence that felt heavier than he ever imagined possible. One night I was sitting alone on the living room sofa, Josie recalls, and the quiet, it wasn't peaceful. It was sharp. It was echoing. It filled every corner of the house and seemed to settle right into my bones. That's when the phone rang. It was James. His voice sounded rushed, like he had meant to call earlier but had only just found the time. "Hey, Dad, are you home alone tonight? I was planning to come by with Kate, but something came up at work. We won't be able to make it." Josie felt that familiar pang of disappointment, one he had grown used to hiding. He took a breath, steadied his voice, and replied, "It's okay, son. Don't worry about me. I'm doing just fine on my own." He wasn't trying to be noble. He was trying to be kind, to his son and perhaps to himself. But in truth, he wasn't really fine. Not yet. Yet as the call ended, I let out a long, slow sigh. One of those sighs that seemed to come from the soul. A heavy silence settled over the room, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the full weight of my solitude. It wasn't just that the house was empty. It was that the world seemed to be moving on without me. Once I had a purpose. I had Beatrice by my side, a woman whose warmth filled every corner of this home. I had James and Rosaline, my children, bringing energy, laughter, and endless needs that kept me going. I had a job that expected me every morning, co-workers who greeted me with nods and smiles. Now, in the quiet landscape of early retirement, it was just me, and a house filled with echoes. The following afternoon, as I sat sipping lukewarm coffee on my porch, Mr. Lewis, my neighbor of many years, dropped by. He was close to my age, a good man with a steady way about him. We exchanged the usual pleasantries until he paused, looked me in the eye, and asked gently, "Josie, there's no one else living here with you anymore, is there?" I gave a quiet nod. He sighed and leaned on the railing beside me. "Same here. My wife passed away last year. The kids? They're good, but they've got lives of their own now. I know how that kind of loneliness creeps in even when you don't want to admit it's there. Hearing him say that felt like someone pressing on an invisible bruise. It stung. But strangely, it also brought comfort. I wasn't the only one. There were others, many others, facing this same strange aching silence in the latter half of life. Then Mr. Lewis said something that stayed with me like a whisper I couldn't unhear. We've reached an age where we need to start thinking ahead. If the day comes when it's really just you, no one else to check in, no one around, what's your plan? His words planted themselves in my mind like seeds. Over the next few days and nights, they bloomed into anxious thoughts. What if I did fall ill? Who would notice? Who would help me if I couldn't reach the phone? I'd always imagined growing old with Beatrice. 2 rocking chairs side by side, soft music, shared meals. I had never prepared for this kind of aging. Alone. Soon after, Rosalind stopped by with her little daughter in tow. I had spent the morning cooking her childhood favorites, hoping for a warm, unhurried visit. But the moment she walked in, she said, "Dad, I only have a few minutes. I still have to pick up Ryan later. Work's been insane lately." I saw it in her face. The tiredness, the rush, the tightrope she was walking between work, family, and time. I wanted more than 15 rushed minutes. I wanted to sit with her, laugh, talk about nothing in particular. But I simply smiled and said, "That's fine, honey. I'm doing all right." She ate quickly, kissed me goodbye, and left. I stood at the window watching them disappear down the street, a hollow kind of ache spreading through me. That night, as I lay in bed staring up at the ceiling, Mr. Lewis's words returned louder than ever. I thought, I can't just drift through life like this. I need to make a change. I need a plan. A few days later, I invited Mr. Lewis to take a walk through the local park. We sat quietly on a bench watching the world move around us. Children played, joggers passed. Life, in all its noise and color, went on. I turned to him and said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said. If we really end up alone, how do we cope? How do we live?" He nodded slowly. "I've been thinking too. First, we need to make sure we're financially steady. Savings, bills, groceries, healthcare. Being old and broke, that's a recipe for suffering." I agreed. Money wasn't everything, but having enough to live with dignity mattered. So I sat down that week and reviewed everything: pensions, savings, possible medical expenses. It felt like I was finally taking control, not just waiting for the next crisis. Mr. Lewis added, "And second, we have to stop relying on our kids to fill in the gaps. They love us, sure, but they've got their own paths. We've got to stay active, move our bodies, join things, avoid becoming shadows in our own homes." He was right again. I'd become a ghost in my own life. Days blurred into nights spent in front of the television. My world had shrunk to the size of a living room, so I started small. Gentle stretches in the park each morning, walks with intention. In the evenings, I visited the community center where a few of the other retirees gathered for chess, cards, or just a good chat. I met new people. I laughed again, and slowly, I felt my world open back up. Still, there were nights when the silence returned, especially as I lay in bed, eyes fixed on the dark. The thought always returned. What if I fall? What if I get sick? Who would even know? And that's when another idea sparked. Maybe what I need now is a companion, someone to talk to, someone to care for and be cared for in return. Not to replace Beatrice, never that, but to share life with again, even in this new chapter. The thought of companionship stirred something deep within me, a mixture of longing and guilt. Beatrice had only passed a few years ago, and even now her memory lived in every photograph, every quiet morning, every creak of the old wooden floor. The idea of inviting someone else into my life felt at first like a betrayal. I asked myself again and again, is it too soon? Is it disloyal? But loneliness has a voice of its own. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It seeps into your skin, makes a home in the quiet corners of your day. Eventually, I found the courage to speak to Mr. Lewis about it. He listened with his usual calm attentiveness, then said something that changed the way I saw it all. "Josie, there's no shame in wanting someone by your side. It's not about finding someone to serve you, it's about having someone to share life with, to laugh with, to talk to when the sun sets and you don't want to face the dark alone." His words were a balm to my conflicted heart. Wanting a partner again wasn't about replacing Beatrice or diminishing her memory. It was about choosing life, choosing to keep loving, even as the years added lines to my face and silver to my hair. Not long after that, during one of my regular evening visits to the community center, I met Linda Brown. She was around my age, with a warm, sincere smile and a spark in her eyes that told me she still saw beauty in the world. Like me, she lived alone. Her children had settled in different states, chasing careers and new lives. We struck up a conversation over a game of Scrabble. One round turned into two, and before I knew it, we were sharing stories over tea after every session. We exchanged numbers, started calling regularly, and slowly our bond deepened. We found joy in the simplest things: grocery shopping together, trying out new recipes, taking peaceful walks as the sun rose. Linda brought a new light into my home, a brightness I hadn't realized I'd missed so badly. Eventually, Linda moved in. We didn't see a need for ceremony or titles. Our connection was real, steady, and kind. We lived like any affectionate couple, sharing meals, discussing the news, trading thoughts on life and books. There was something beautifully uncomplicated about our companionship. It wasn't the fervor of youth. It was the quiet strength of presence. Then one day, I fell ill with a stubborn fever. I felt weak and disoriented. Linda didn't hesitate. She brought me cool cloths, ensured I took my medication, and even called James to let him know I wasn't well. When James arrived, I could see the surprise in his face at how naturally Linda had stepped into that caring role. "Dad," he said, concerned, "why didn't you call me sooner? If you're sick, I need to know." I chuckled weakly. "Didn't want to bother you, son. Besides, Linda's taken good care of me." James looked at her, then back at me. He nodded, his eyes softening as he realized how much her presence meant. At the hospital, the doctor assured us it was nothing serious, just rest and fluids. James offered to take me home with him for a few days, but I gently declined. "I'm more comfortable at home," I told him. "Linda knows my routine. She's got everything handled." That episode reminded me just how essential her companionship had become. Her gentle attention, her steady care, it made me feel seen, even in my vulnerability. What we shared may not have looked like the passionate romances of our youth, but it was love just the same. A deeper, quieter kind, the kind that stays. But life, as it often does, threw another turn my way. One sunny afternoon, Linda received a phone call from her son. He was getting married. He asked if she could come and live with him for a while to help with the preparations and settle into his new home. Linda's eyes shimmered with conflict. I saw the worry before she even spoke. "Josie, I don't want to leave you. I'm so used to this place now. I don't even know if I'll be much help there. But he's my son. Maybe I should be with my children now." I forced a smile, swallowing the heaviness in my chest. "This is wonderful news, Linda. He's your son. Family is important. You should be there for him." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm just afraid. I don't want to leave you alone." "They need you," I whispered. "That's a mother's duty, and I'll be all right." I lied, of course. I wasn't all right. When we drove to the bus station a few days later, the ride felt like the last few pages of a book I didn't want to end. As she stepped onto the bus, she looked back at me, her hand pressed against the window. I waved, heart heavy, throat tight. The bus pulled away. And just like that, the house was silent again. It was too quiet, too still. And though I had survived loneliness once before, it hit differently this time, sharper somehow, because now I knew what it felt like to have someone again, and to lose them all over. I tried to return to my old routines, chatting with neighbors, visiting the community center, and occasionally calling my kids. But the warmth Linda had brought into my life was gone, replaced by a heavier loneliness than before. My son Adam and daughter Eva called regularly, each time noticing something in my voice. "You sound down, Dad," Adam said during one call. But what could I say? They both lived too far to be by my side consistently, and I couldn't expect them to put their lives on hold just to take care of me. A few months later, I overheard some folks at the community center talking about assisted living facilities, places designed for older adults with medical staff, group activities, and a built-in community. The thought stuck with me. Maybe I should look into it, I mused. One phone call later, Adam sounded concerned. "Dad, do you really want to move into a senior living place? Won't it be kind of depressing?" I took a deep breath. "Son, it's not about it being depressing or not. I just need somewhere stable. Somewhere I won't be alone if something happens. You and Ava can't always be here, and I don't want to be a burden. At least in a place like that, I'll have people my age around and care if I need it." After a long pause, Adam said he'd talk to Eva. A few days later, they both came over. Eva looked worried. "Dad, we understand living alone is hard, but are you sure a senior community is right for you?" I nodded gently. "I've thought about it a lot. I need to be around others who are in the same stage of life. I know you both want to help, and I'm grateful. But I can't rely on you all the time. You have careers, kids, your own lives." They exchanged glances, then nodded. Adam said, "We support you, Dad, and we'll visit often." Not long after, I moved into a peaceful assisted living home on the outskirts of town. It had a lovely garden, recreation rooms, and a friendly community of seniors. On my very first day, a kind man named Mr. Vernon took me under his wing, showed me around, and introduced me to some folks who liked chess as much as I did. That night, as I lay in my new bed staring at the moonlit sky through the window, I felt something I hadn't in a while: relief. The place was unfamiliar, yes, but I wasn't entirely alone. There were people around, staff watching out for us, neighbors willing to share a coffee or a quiet chat. Over the next 6 months, I adapted. I joined the Tai Chi group in the mornings, played board games every afternoon, and shared meals in the dining hall. Adam and Eva visited, sometimes bringing the grandkids. I always reassured them I was settling in, and in truth I was. A certain peace had begun to take root. But then, one sunny afternoon, as I sat basking in the courtyard warmth, my phone rang. It was Adam. His voice was tight with worry. "Dad, Linda's been in a car accident. She's in the ICU. It's not looking good." My heart pounded. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "Are you sure? Where is she now?" He told me the name of the hospital and asked if I wanted him to pick me up. The drive was a blur. My thoughts spiraled back to the day Linda left, the day we promised to stay in touch. I'd tried to be brave, never imagining it might end like this. When we arrived, Adam and Ava were already in the waiting room, their faces pale with worry. Adam came over. "The doctors are still working on her, but it doesn't look promising." I stared at the glowing red light above the emergency room doors, my heart thudding in my ears. I prayed silently, clinging to the hope that Linda's spirit, so strong, so full of life, would somehow pull her through. The minutes dragged like hours. Then finally, a tired-looking doctor emerged. We rushed toward him, and I stammered, "How is she?" That evening, back in my room, as I lay in bed and let the day settle in my bones, I found myself thinking of Linda again. Her image came not as a sharp ache, but more like a soft echo, bittersweet, tender. The pain was still there, yes, but something had shifted. I felt gratitude blooming quietly beneath the sorrow. Gratitude for the days we'd shared, for the laughter, the comfort, even for the heartbreak, because it meant I had loved deeply, fully. As the days passed, I found a renewed sense of purpose, not to move on, as people often suggest, but to move with her memory. I began doing little things in her honor, smiling more, offering companionship to others, taking time to sit in the sun, to enjoy a warm cup of tea, to listen, really listen when someone spoke. Living well, as she had asked. One morning, I stepped outside just as the early light painted the courtyard gold. The warmth touched my face and I closed my eyes, taking it in. Linda's words echoed in my mind, about cherishing people, savoring each moment, understanding that everything, everyone, is impermanent. But that impermanence doesn't make the time we share any less meaningful. In fact, it makes it sacred. I've come to realize that old age isn't solely about losing things. It's also about realization, a softening of expectations, an embracing of truth. Every relationship, whether lifelong or fleeting, leaves a mark. From family ties to friendships to late-in-life companionships, we begin to understand how truly precious those connections are. As Haruki Murakami once wrote, "We don't age in a slow, steady line. We age in sudden bursts." One day someone calls you sir and it catches you off guard. A year disappears. Your reflection changes. Your parents pass, your children grow too busy, and you find yourself quieter. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you now know that not everyone listens to understand. Health begins to falter. Financial worries whisper where they once roared. Your vibrant social life becomes a dimmed calendar of medical appointments and holidays you spend hoping for visitors. And yet, despite all this, there is peace to be found. Peace in acceptance, peace in choosing humility over pride, peace in learning that your worth isn't tethered to productivity, youth, or validation. Peace in understanding that love in old age is different, not always wild or passionate, but steady, enduring, even when it fades. You learn to hold your memories gently, to forgive yourself for past regrets, and to stop expecting others to be what they cannot. You learn that true freedom comes not from what you have, but from how deeply you can let go of what you never needed in the first place. Some call it resignation. I call it wisdom. Because even now, in the hush of evening, when I sit alone with the gentle ticking of the clock and Linda's memory brushing softly against my heart, I find myself whispering the same words she gave me. Live well. And I will. Above all, you learn that in the end, the one person who will always be there for you is you. If you can stand on your own 2 feet, push through heartache, and allow yourself the grace to heal, then you've already found a kind of strength no one can take away. With that in mind, I want to leave you with a final thought. If you ever find yourself aging alone, remember, there are ways to prepare. Don't hesitate to build a solid financial plan and maintain your independence as best you can. Nourish your soul with friendships, hobbies, and if you're open to it, a new companion who might bring unexpected light into your life, even if it's just for a few short years. Treasure the people who truly care, but don't be afraid to place yourself in an environment where support is available. If that's an assisted living community, so be it. If it's staying with your children or close friends, that's wonderful too. There's no one right way to age, only the way that brings you the most comfort, dignity, and companionship in your final decades. And when the night falls and you feel that familiar ache of missing those who've gone before, remind yourself, you carry them in your heart. The time you shared was real and precious. No one can take that away from you. Thank you for watching and supporting our channel. If you found Mark Thompson's story meaningful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. Take care, cherish your loved ones, and we'll see you in the next video.